So this tutorial will be broken in few steps. First one is to import our CAD file of the existing and proposed models. Then we're going to create our ground models. Then we're going to show you how to set up the PDS template for your Earthworks Cut and Fill for solid triangles for the Isopachytes. Then we're going to export it, bring it into AutoCAD, and then set up the Layerstate for the AutoCAD so you can update the AutoCAD drawing to suit your colors that you want for the Isopachyte. So this is the first time I went in depth and created a kind of exercise file. So in the download link in the description, you will find the folder, and in the folder you'll have the imports. You will have existing and proposed. Then in the exports, that's where we're going to save our exports in CAD. In the ground models, we will have our ground models. I already created them, but we're going to go through it in this tutorial. And in the PDS and CAD templates, I have set up the Layerstate settings or the LAS files extensions for the cut and fill for red and blue, red and green, and spectrum. And we're gonna create and save in here the PDS Earthworks template. When you follow this tutorial, this will automatically be created, not automatically, but it will be created, and you will have the option to save it in your PDS templates folder, or you can save it in the project, depends on what you need. So we have PDS fired up, and what we're gonna do is just import our drawings. So we're gonna go File, Import, and we're gonna bring in our existing ground models. Now we have two ground models, existing 1 and existing 2. Don't worry, I've separated them in layers so you can turn them off and you can create your ground model. Now the way I've done them is I've done them like in intervals of levels, so you can see all the layer depth bands when you do the Isopachytes. So let's do our first ground model. So PGM, build model, build PGM. We're gonna select all the visibles. We're happy with the boundary, hit OK, and then OK, and create new file. And we're gonna save it in the ground model, and it's existing 1, save it. We're gonna just replace it and hit yes and OK. And these are our triangles. They look fine, and we hit OK. Now I'm gonna freeze this one and turn on the existing 2, and we're gonna create the same thing, build PGM, okay. Just gonna make it slightly bigger, okay. Create new file, existing 2, and there we go, triangles are fine. Now what I'm gonna do is freeze that one as well, and now I'm gonna import my proposed. Now the proposed is basically just a plane on a specific z-axis. So if we go verify entity, you can see proposed 2 is on 10, which should have been on 0, so we're gonna move it. And the proposed 1 is on 2.5, which is right in the middle where I wanted it. So let's move existing proposed 2 ground model minus 10 in the z-axis. So we're gonna go modify, move minus 10 in the z direction, hit OK, select it and right click, and now it should be on 0, which is perfect. Let's go to our layers, freeze proposed 2, so we can create a ground model for proposed 1. Build model, build PGM, okay, yes, and yes. Create new file, we're gonna name it proposed 1. I'm just gonna override this. And then I'm gonna freeze this one and turn on proposed 2, PGM, build model, build PGM. Gonna create a new file and propose 2. So now we have all our ground models set up. So if I just bring them in so you can see, these will be in cut and these will be in cut, these will be in fill, and between will be like cut and fill. And here I think I put it right in the middle, so you have the lower ones in cut and the higher ones in fill. So now I don't need to save this, but you can save it, and let's save it as, and just outside and just save it PDS model. The way I like to work in PDS is have one file for all the modeling I'm doing, like the strings, lines, triangles, all I'm doing. And then on a new clean PDS file, I'll do all my earthworks. Because when you do the earthworks exercise, you basically just need the ground model. You don't need lines or strings unless you're using boundaries, like so you can do a cut and fill within that certain area. Then I'll still do a clean Earthworks PDS file, and I'll import in the zones, let's say, that I want to use the cut and fill for. However, in our case, we're not going to use any zones or whatsoever. We're just going to do a full Isopachyte. And the reason we're going to create a new drawing is so we can set up the template as well. So we're going to go new, and I'm just going to delete these ones. These won't appear on your PDS. So these usually appear on when you create new PDS file. So I'm just gonna go PDS only, and that is for version 16. So I'm gonna hit open and just okay. Now, when setting up the PDS template, you need to know a few things. You need to know what depth bands you're gonna do, the layers, colors, all these things. So if we go PGM, contouring isopachytes, contour isopachytes, and we're gonna do solid triangles. So let's select our ground models first, existing one and proposed one. And we're gonna make sure we're solid triangles and hit OK. And now you can see that we have 10 bands and they start from 0 to 0.1, 0.2, and then at band 4 starts, the interval becomes higher than 100 mil. Now this is the default one usually, and you can tweak this however you wish. The colors though will not change unless you reduce the number of bands. Because they are 10 for cut and 10 for fill, you need to set up the layers, let's say from 400 to 420 your cut and fill bands, actually to 419, I believe, yeah. So you can see here, when we select band layers, you can see band 1, band 2, band 3. So we need to set up these colors to match on what we want. And the same one for fill. For fill, it's 410, and you can see that if we go select band layers, we've got 410, 11 equivalent, and band 10 is 419. And if we go to additional settings, the balance is on 420. So what do? The quick way I found to set up the colors so I won't have to change each one individually is to do the following. I'll go to the layer control. I'll switch from all in use to all unused. I'll go to layer 400 and name it just cut, so I can know that that's the cut one. But 400 is cut, that's what I usually use. And then the color, I'll pick the color 30. Now I'll explain why I picked the color 30 and the color for the blue one, the color as well. So for 410, I'm gonna do the fill one. And I'm just gonna give it a 132, I think should be fine. And then for 420, I'm just gonna name it balance and just give it a 7. Like basically I want it white. So I'm gonna hit OK now. So if I go back to PGM contouring isopachytes, contour isopachytes, and if I go to hit OK, now you can see that 400 is orange. Now if I go select band layers, if these were, let's say, not 401, 402, I'm just gonna hit the increment layers from band 1. So basically, if it's 400 here, it will become 401. If it was 200, it will become 201, 202. But because we're using 400, it will be 400 till 409, which is set up. Now I'll hit OK. And then when I hit reset layer names and colors, that's where the magic happens. So PDS will rename the layers and also pick up the color and then try to color grade it to become darker as the depth bands increase. As you can see here, our depth band increases. Therefore, the color should increase so it can be a visual aid. So you can see 400 is orange and then 409 is like a dark red. I'm gonna hit OK. I'm gonna do the same one for the fill, settings for fill. And I'm gonna go select band layers. I know they're already increment, but I'm just gonna hit increment layers just to make sure that I didn't miss anything and all of them are increment. And then just go reset layer name and colors. And then if I go select band layers, you can see from light blue went to darkish blue greenish. Now this works for all the colors, I believe. So if you pick one light color, it becomes darker, but if you pick a darker one, I haven't tried that, but let me know if you tried what results you get. So I'm gonna hit OK and OK again. And then in the display settings, I'll just make sure 420 is the balance one, and then 421 is the text and the border 421. So now this is set up. I'm just gonna hit cancel, okay? So if I go to layer control and I go scroll to 400, you can see my colors are set up. If you don't like the colors, you can just go manually start changing them. For example, I think the blue goes too greenish, so I'm just gonna change it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start from the darker one. So I'm just gonna do 166, the darker one, and just start going lighter as I move forward. So
what follows is a brief construction montage.
Now, I could go even lighter, like 131, and this will be 130, and now it's better. So you can do the same for the cut as well, but I'm gonna leave it as is for now. I'm gonna hit OK. So now I have all my layers and colors set up. If I go File, Save As, and just go into the PDS and CAD templates folder, and just name it CTS Earthworks. And then in brackets, I can name it like band type 1, because that's the main one, let's say. And then I just can say red and blue. Actually, I'll put end loop because I don't know if it will read the symbol. So now I have a template, the PDS Earthworks. I'm gonna make sure that I change the type to PDS model template. So it's the Earthworks band type 1, so basically it's the standard one. So 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, and then 1, 2, 5, 10. That's the band depths. If I hit save, it will ask me if I want to save it in the template folder of PDS, which it creates when you install PDS. So you can see that's the path, the D drive in my case, and it's in data file template, and it'll create this one. Or you can save it in the specific folder. I'm gonna do both. So I'm gonna save it in the template one, and I'm gonna hit file save as and save it as well in here as well. So I'm just gonna name it CTS Earthworks template. I'm not gonna give it the same name. Hit save and just save template in current specified folder and hit OK. So now when you go and hit new, the template you just created will be there. And if I go select this one and hit open and OK, if I go layer control, you can see that the layers that I've created and named, they're all there. So that solves one of the problems. We don't have to go to reset color bands and set the colors and etc. So we're just gonna hit OK and let's do our isopachytes. So we're gonna go PGM, build model, verify PGM. The reason I'm doing it is because I don't know where my model is. So I'm just gonna make sure I find it first. So I'm gonna go exercise, ground models, propose 2, let's do propose 2, and then perimeter, line, and hit OK. So that's where my model is. Now let's do the isopachytes. PGM, contouring, isopachytes, contour isopachytes. Gonna select existing 2 as the first PGM, and the second PGM will be proposed 2. Hit OK. I'm gonna make sure it's solid color and hit OK. Now you can see these are already set up for me, so I can just safely know I can hit OK and it will work. And it worked. And now it'll ask me to digitize the band schedule. So I'm just gonna put it somewhere here and then right click, and there we have it. Now I can freeze the perimeter one. So I'm just gonna switch to all in use and freeze the boundary perimeter and hit OK. So now we have this drawing. Now let's do as well the existing and ground one. So go PGM, contouring, isopachytes, contour isopachytes. Now we're gonna untick the delete all existing contours and just make sure first PGM is existing 1, second PGM is existing 2, and hit OK. Oh, we select the wrong ground model. Let's go do it again. Existing 1 and sorry, proposed 1, my bad. Hit OK and then OK. And I'm gonna put the schedule here. So now we have 2 ground models. Let's export them. So we're gonna go File, Export, and we're gonna go Visible. Actually, we're gonna go Select by Digitizing. In the More settings, I'm gonna make sure everything is by layer and hit OK. And in the file name, I'm just gonna go to the Exports folder and just name it Earthworks Site 1 and hit Save and OK. And I'll hold right click, Window, and select all this, right click and OK. So that's my first export done, and then I'm gonna do the same thing for the second side. File name, just click on this one so you can pick up the name and just change one letter instead of typing the whole thing. Save and select by digitizing. More settings, yeah, by layer, hit OK and OK again. Right click, window, and select it and OK. Now we have these set up. Now the only limitation that PDS has is, you might have noticed, when you select the color, you cannot actually type the RGB format or hex numbers that you want. So maybe you want something different from the standard color palette. And that is why we usually import stuff in AutoCAD, because A is our title block in there, and B, we can just add nodes more easily, etc. So that's the truth. So we're just gonna go open both drawings that we just created. So we're gonna go exports, and I'm gonna open both of them. Hit open. So we've got our first and second site. So let's work on our first one. If this will be our template from now on, then what we can do is we can save it as a layer state. What I mean by that, if you type layer state and hit enter, you can create a new one and just name it cut and fill, let's say, and hit OK. And you can hit update. And if we go select it and hit edit, you can see it saves all the settings of the layers. So the next time we export a file from PDS, which is the template that we set up, if we change these colors, let's say, for example, we want to change all these layer colors, these settings are saved. And the reason I do this is because, for example, the cut is not that great. The fill, I can live with it because it goes from light to dark blue, but the reddish doesn't work that great. So what I can do is I'll hit close. I can go to Layer Properties Manager and just start tweaking it. For example, instead of this color, I'll just go to True Color, make it lighter, and then just start selecting this one and going darker from there. So it can be kind of matching. So I'll select the reference one and keep this one as is. Then I'll select this one and go slightly darker, maybe slightly reddish as well. And going from there. So from now it looks great. So I fixed kind of the transition thing. So you can see here the lines were picked up, but the hatch was not changed. To fix it, I'm just going to Control A, set by layer, and yes, and you can see now the transition is slightly smoother and nicer to the eye. Some people might not care. So if I go Layerstate now, so basically once you're happy with the colors that you've set up from the export of your PDS template, I note the template, because you want them to go together. So once you've set up your PDS template, you want to set up your layer state. You don't want to set up your layer state if you don't have the PDS template, because the layer state needs to have the same layer names as the PDS one, because that's how it works. The layer state cannot work on different named layers. So layer state, and we're just going to hit update, and we're going to update it. So now if you go to edit, you can see it picked up all the colors. We're going to hit save and we can export it. So I'm going to export it just to show you the example. And I'm going to save it in the PDS and CAD templates. I'm just going to save it as the name it is now and hit close. Now, if I go to Earthworks Site 2, you see, remember I told you that this tiny bit doesn't look that great. If I type Layerstate and hit enter and I go import and I select and I switch to last and I select the cut and fill last that I've exported and hit open and restore settings, and obviously Control A, set by layer, everything, you can see it changed it automatically because the layers were the same name and everything. So in the tutorial file that you have downloaded, I've created some what I believe might be decent looking Earthworks Isopachytes. So let's import them just to have a look. So let's select the red and blue one first and restore settings. So that's the red and blue. Now these were frozen because my PDS template was different from yours. As you can see, the 421 was not there. So if I turn it back on, now it's there. So that is the reason why it might be frozen. So don't panic about it. What you can do is in the layer state, and if you go to edit, just make sure that the fill key is white and you have everything turned on. So basically hit save and update. And then when you go edit, 421 is there, and you can just hit save and export it now again, and just export it and resave it on top of the PDS template. So if I go close and go to my site 1 and go layer state, and if I go to import and select the one I've just created, which is updated, the red and blue, and hit restore state, you can see this did not get frozen because now in the layer state 421 has been registered. So now let's look at the other layer states. So I think there is two types of cut fill. You can show the fill in blue. The cut is always usually in red, and that I think is taken from the embankments, like the gradient slopes. When it's in cut, it's shown as red. When it's in fill, it shows in green. But you can also show blue as in fill. But I usually go for the red and green because I reserve the blue transitioning for my float compensation drawings. I'm just going to import the red and green as well, so you can see it, restore state, and you can see 421 was not registered on my template. So I'm just going to go Layerstate, update it and edit it and make sure 421 is not frozen, save and export. And I'll just save it over the one that I had. And close and just turn it on. And that is the red and green one. And then you have the spectrum one, which I'm not a big fan of, but some people actually use it. I've seen it quite a lot. So you tell me if you think it's better, the spectrum one. I literally like seeing what's in cut, what's in fill, but I'm not a big fan of this one. But yeah, that is how quickly you can just sort out your drawings. For example, I have the PDS template. So when I'm in PDS, I just go new. Let's just save this one and save PDS Earthworks. When I create a new one, I've got, like, if I'm doing a cut and fill, I just select this one. And then when I export from CAD, when I export into CAD, I can just run a Layerstate and I know all the colors of the export from the PDS file will be exactly with the previous Earthworks drawing because I've set up a Layerstate. And that is how you set up your files. So leave in your comments what you think and what kind of style you prefer. Is it red, blue or red, green? Or actually not even red, you use something different. I've seen actually pink, some people using like magenta styles, but let me know in the comments.